Yo, what's up, y'all? Welcome back. It's been like 2 weeks since I did a video from the office. I've actually been blogging lately, so I invite you guys to go over to undergroundwellness.com and check out some of my new blogs. I did a couple of blogs on oxidative stress. I'm doing a series of articles on that. I did a book review of a book called Fat Is Not Your Fault by Dr. Brian Walsh, who's on my radio show tonight. And that's where most of the information that we're going to talk about today came from. So please go ahead and check that out. Comment. Let me know if it sucks. Let me know if you like it. Just, give me some feedback on that. Thank you very much for that. Today's topic is a major deal breaker when it comes to losing fat and getting healthy, and that's blood sugar imbalances. This is something I have to do with just about every client. When we first start working together, I say, whoa, before we do anything, let's get your blood sugar balanced, because if we don't do that, nothing else is going to work. And so I did a video maybe 3 years ago. I was sitting on my couch and the lighting was all bad, and I was talking about how blood sugar and insulin resistance works. Let me tell you how things are supposed to work. You eat food that's got carbohydrates in it. That's going to be digested. Those carbohydrates are going to be converted into something called glucose. That's going to make your blood sugar or your blood glucose go up. That blood sugar, that blood glucose is the fuel for your body. But that doesn't work too well if it's just in your bloodstream. It has to get into the cells, because the cells are where the energy is made. So cells here, blood glucose here. How do we get this blood glucose inside of the cells? Well, we do that with something called insulin. So the brain, it senses, hey, there's a whole lot of blood sugar going on in here. Let's make that pancreas make the insulin. So the insulin comes on out and it says, well, we got to open up these cells. And so there's a receptor on that cell. And that insulin is going to bind onto it. That cell is going to open up, we'll say today for simplicity. It's going to open up and it's going to go ahead and shove blood sugar into the cell. Now it's cellular sugar, and it's going to make energy out of it. That's how it's supposed to work. But these days we've kind of screwed things up because we tend to overeat, and we eat way too many processed carbohydrates, sugars, way too many processed grains and whatnot. Our diets are just screwed up these days. And so we're going to talk about the two primary forms of blood sugar imbalances, and those are insulin resistance and reactive hypoglycemia. And so this is how they look. In an ideal world, your blood sugar will be between 80 and 120. That's where you're supposed to be. Now, what happens with reactive hypoglycemia is you eat something. Let's say you have a bagel for breakfast. It has lots of, it's processed. It's going to break down really fast. It's going to send a lot of blood glucose into your bloodstream. So your blood sugar goes way up, and then your body combats that by making insulin, making too much insulin, and that blood sugar goes way down, and now you're feeling tired, you're feeling hungry, you're feeling irritable. So you go ahead and eat some more carbohydrates, your blood sugar goes up, and then it's going to drop down. It's become hypoglycemic or low blood sugar again, and then it's going to go back up after you eat something else, and then it's going to drop back down, and this is what people are doing all day by eating processed carbohydrates. Now, that's reactive hypoglycemia. We also have insulin resistance. Now, what happens with that is, we talked earlier about that insulin binding onto that cell receptor, opening up the cell and shoving the glucose in. But what if it's knocking on that door just a little bit too much over a long period of time? Sooner or later, that cell is going to be like, hey, man, you need to knock a little bit harder. Or, hey, man, you can knock all you want, but I'm not going to open up at all. Now, that poses, quite a problem for somebody. Why? It's because the insulin levels chronically stay high, and since the glucose can't get inside of the cell, your blood sugar stays high as well, and that has some consequences that we're going to talk about in a minute. So your blood sugar ends up looking like this. It's always high. Your blood insulin is always high. If that happens, you ain't getting healthy, and you definitely ain't losing any fat. Now, how do you identify which one you are? Do you have insulin resistance? Do you have hypoglycemia? Or do you have none? Here are some really common symptoms. For hypoglycemia, you feel better after meals. Sugar cravings you have before meals, and you may have difficulty staying asleep at night. Now, difficulty staying asleep at night happens for a lot of people who I speak with. What happens is you're asleep, your blood sugar drops, and your body goes, hey, I don't want you falling into a coma. I don't want you to die from low blood sugar. So your body's going to send out something called cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and that cortisol is going to free up blood sugar into your bloodstream. It's going to wake you up because cortisol is an awakening hormone. So that's what may be happening. That's keeping you awake at night. Now, insulin resistance. You feel tired after meals. So instead of feeling better after meals, you actually feel more tired. Sugar cravings happen after meals instead of before with hypoglycemia, and you may have difficulty getting to sleep at night. Okay, so problems getting to sleep, problems staying asleep. So what are the consequences here, and what do they have to do with you gaining weight or not being able to lose fat, not being able to get healthy? Well, insulin is normal. Of course, it's supposed to be in your body. It serves a purpose, but when it's chronically elevated, when there's excessive insulin going on within the body, there we go, then here are some issues that may happen or can happen. You've got sex hormone issues. There is an enzyme called aromatase, and guys, listen up here. Aromatase converts testosterone into estrogen. Too much insulin is going to cause an overproduction of the aromatase, causing the testosterone to turn into estrogen. If you're a guy out there with excessive estrogen, you ain't going to be losing no weight. I'm sorry. You're not going to be getting healthy. If you're a woman, too much insulin is going to increase an enzyme, I forget the name of it, that actually makes your ovaries produce more testosterone. If you produce more testosterone, you're going to gain weight, and you're going to predispose yourself to something called PCOS. That's why if you have polycystic ovarian system, they say that, hey, you need to balance your blood sugar. It's the first thing that you should do. Now, also, too much insulin is going to cause excess production of inflammatory chemicals. Inflammation is a stress. Stress causes increase in cortisol, and like we talked about 2 minutes ago, cortisol is going to increase blood sugar. Increased blood sugar does what? Increases more insulin. And so it's like a vicious cycle. It's perpetuating the problem here, and that becomes a problem. You're not going to lose fat. Then you've got leptin. We haven't talked much about leptin on the show yet, but leptin is the hormone that your fats make, your fat cells make to tell your brain that you're full. We are done eating. Now, it's going to cause more leptin. So you would think, your brain would always be thinking that you're full, and it's a good thing. But remember, like I said earlier, if that insulin is always pounding on those cells, the cells after a while go, hey, I'm not even paying attention to you anymore. So what happens is you get the same thing. You get leptin resistance, where the cells say, that's just some leptin. We're not going to worry about that. And if that happens, then you're just always hungry all the time. And so you don't know when to stop eating, not losing fat. Then you've got the liver. One of the liver's jobs is to get extra hormones out of the body. But too much insulin is going to clog up the liver, or it's going to keep it from detoxifying properly. It's going to slow it down. And so if you've got that happening, you're going to have excess hormones that can't get out of the body. That's going to increase your estrogen. So men, you're going to gain weight. And that's going to increase your testosterone in women, which means possible PCOS, weight gain, maybe some facial hair and whatnot. You definitely don't want any of those. I am sweating. Insulin also is going to, as you know, provide the cells to get into, or the glucose to get into the cells to make energy. But if you've got chronically elevated insulin and you've got insulin resistance, then again, that blood sugar can't get into the cell. You can't make your energy. You're tired all the time. And if you're tired all the time, what do you think are the chances of you actually getting off the couch and actually going to work out? They're not there. You're fatigued all the time. You can't make energy. And so these are just some of the ways in which blood sugar imbalances can impede your ability to lose fat and get healthy. What do you do about it? Number one, you gotta figure out why it's happening. Usually for most people, it's a diet issue. You got to cut back or eliminate all those processed carbohydrates, all those foods that aren't really foods. You got to eat whole foods. You got to eat a higher protein breakfast. You got to incorporate more proteins, more fats, less carbohydrates in your meals. And also you need to take into consideration how stressed you are, how fatigued your adrenal glands are. Because remember, stress means more cortisol. Cortisol means more blood sugar. More blood sugar means more insulin, and the whole thing just starts, it's like a cycle. So that's some information for you. I feel like I kind of zoomed through that one. I hope you guys understood that all. If you don't, definitely check out the book, Fat Is Not Your Fault, or check out the show tonight. If you miss it, it's going to be on iTunes. I'm sweating. Summer is almost over, so this won't be happening much anymore, but I'm out of here, y'all. Peace.